Hello guys, it's Amanda and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I will be reviewing the Emily Wilde series. This is going to be completely non-spoiler, so all of you who have not read this series are completely safe. Let's get into my honest opinion on Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Let's get into it. So recently I have just completed this beautiful series, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. The third and final book has just come out this year and I read it and I finished it about 2 weeks now that this is being put out. I'm so in love with this series and it was such a beautiful end to such a beautiful series. I'm getting ahead of myself. Again, I am not going to be going through any spoilers, so this is completely non-spoilers. For anyone who has not read these books, you are completely safe. I'm going to be very vague and not talk about the last two books, because obviously we need to read the first book before we read the others. So what is Emily Wilde? Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies is a series that follows our protagonist, Emily Wilde, on her quest to study and research the world of the Fae, the fairies. What I love about this series is that each book is written as an epistolary, so this means it is written in journal entries and or letters. I really love how each book is set up that way because it's really like you are just reading her journal while also still giving good plot, while also being very gripping and still telling you the full story. Heather Fawcett does an amazing job with the writing and it really shows all of Emily's inside thoughts, obviously, while also showing wonderful character development of all the characters, yet still all from Emily's perspective. So in the first book, she is writing her encyclopedia. I wrote this down. Each book is her writing a book. And the book that we're reading is that book. I love that dynamic where it makes it all feel so real because this is a fictional character writing a book. This isn't a spoiler, but like at the end of the story you find out that the book that we're reading is in fact her Encyclopedia of Fairies. I really love this type of storytelling. So this series is a mixture between cozy fantasy and somewhat of the dark academia. When I say cozy fantasy, yes, it has the lovely cozy aspects of drinking tea, writing in your journal, reading books by the fire. It also has a wonderful plot and it's not dull and it's not at all slow or boring. These books really take what we know as a fairy and like completely turn it on its head. We go into the more darker side of the Fae while also still learning about the bright, happy pixies and fairies that are of our childhood. It goes into the different types of fairies and what different types of fairies, how they interact with different people, humans, how they interact with other Fae, what their job is in their world. I'm so fascinated by it all and I really, really love it because you really feel like you're learning. So as she is writing her novel, she meets her academic rival, Wendell Bambley. We'll get to him in a second. In our first book, we are following Emily and Wendell as they continue the search and research of the Fae and the fairies, and as Emily tries to write her book. Now, let's talk about the characters of this series. I have never read a series that has such well-rounded characters, and especially with this being an epistolary series, we get full, well-rounded characters throughout each book, even though it is from Emily's point of view. Let's start off with our dearest Emily. Emily is a very driven and high-strung, intelligent woman who is determined to write her books and make her academic dreams her reality. She is an introvert and who is very perfectly content with sitting by the fire, writing in her journal next to her beloved dog, Shadow. I love Shadow. She has this beautiful, like, big, I picture like a wolfhound, but I've seen different fan art of it more being like just kind of like a mastiff, just a really big black fluffy dog. I love him. He is my heart and joy. He is my favorite character, obviously. He's just so sweet and I think the beautiful relationship between a girl and her dog is just the best relationships there can be. Then of course we meet Wendell. He is a very flirtatious, sometimes arrogant, but always devoted to his work and of course to Emily. We have that somewhat rivals to lovers, friends to lovers type of relationship going on, and I really, really like how it plays out. It's like a black cat golden retriever relationship dynamic where Emily is the black cat and Wendell is the golden retriever type of man, and I love pairings like that. I love pairings like that even if it's the other way around. There is playful banter, romantic tension between them, and it's just really cute how we see their relationship develop into things as things happen in the books. One of my other favorite characters is this one fairy that we meet. He is just the cutest little thing. His name is Poe. Emily finds a little brownie. A brownie is a type of fairy, like a little type of like woodland fairy, somewhat like a sprite. We all picture different things, obviously, in our imagination with books, but I pictured like just a tiny little furry, spindly looking little dude, like a mole mixed with a hedgehog, but cuter. I don't know. It's a fairy. I don't know. Emily just randomly finds him one day in the woods. She asks for his help with writing her book and finding out more about the Fae, but Poe will only help Emily if Emily gives him little presents, and he definitely loves his bread and his food. And a lot of times throughout these books we will find that Poe will make things for Emily, give her little trinkets. I love their little friendship. I wish I had a fairy friend in the forest. I love just thinking about that. I love it. The storyline of these books, we still get a good, well-rounded picture of everything that's going on, despite it being all journal and diary entries. One of my favorite parts to read is the letters between Emily and Wendell. I love how the journaling aspect works so well for these stories and this storyline, and even as we get more stakes and we grow more into this world and as we continue on with the rest of the books, it holds your attention. There is never a dull moment in any of these books. It's so comforting, yet there's still enough stakes where you're gripped from the very start, and I just think this is a perfect trilogy. It is a perfect blend of dark academia and cozy fantasy, and of course the fairy elements, the fairy core elements of it. My honest review on these books. I read these books every single year as they've come out. The first book came out in 23, the second book came out last year in 24, and then the final book just came out in 25. And another thing I really love about these books is that they have come out every single year pretty much in the same time period, and I have read them all in the same time period. These past 2 years have been such a blast because I know that every year around this time I will be reading an Emily Wilde book, so it is kind of sad that now this series is done, that I'm not going to be able to read more. This was honestly a really great experience, and even if you do read them now, like back to back, I think it would be even better. Just knowing that every year I would have this world to come back to and to be swept away by the fairies again was such a delight. So the first book, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Then the second book, Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, sadly that one I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. While I still loved it and it still had all of the same vibes as the first book, and it had all the same characters, I do think it did have like the second book slump that some series do sometimes unfortunately have. It was still a great read. I still enjoyed myself while reading it. I just think out of all 3 that was least enjoyable. Then I just finished the third one, Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. That book I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And the final book I think is my favorite book out of all of them. I enjoyed the last book immensely, and I loved it more than the first book. I loved it more than the second book. It was the best one out of the series. I am very happy that I got to read such beautiful pieces of literature. This was a beautifully written series. Heather Fawcett is amazing with her writing, and the imagery and the world building of this series and the character development in this entire series is wonderful. I think these are wonderful books, definitely to read in the spring or the summer. I've read these always in like February, March, so it's always slowly going into spring. The world is awakening again, going through a whole rebirth period, and I think that is shown beautifully in these books also. So reading about that in these books while seeing it all around me made this experience so much better. And of course it has sweet, heartfelt relationships, especially between Emily and Wendell, but also with Emily and her friends that she meets along the way. And the whole magic system in this, it revolves around nature, it revolves around the fairies, and the fairies are the ones that create nature. In nature's own magic, the fairies just amplify it. I love nature-focused magic, but it also brings in the dark elements of nature and of how dangerous nature itself can be. And I love that it's a really wonderful balance between the light and the dark. This series is perfect for lovers of fairies, of fantasy, cozy fantasy, dark academia, and hidden magic of the world that is all around us. These books have taught me to be more present and look for little magics around me in my own world, and of course always to look for fairies. My favorite quote from this series, and I think it pretty much says all you need to know about this series, is one doesn't need magic when one knows enough stories. I love how she says that her magic is her knowledge, how books are magic, and they truly are, and I agree so much with Emily, and I see myself in her. Highly recommend this series to anyone who have not read these books yet, or if you have just read the first book. If you're iffy on continuing the series, please, I do highly recommend continuing with this series. It is a beautiful series, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. If you do read it, if you do end up reading these books, please do let me know. If you have read these books and you have loved them as much as I have, do comment that down below also. I would love to hear your thoughts, and maybe we can have a chat in the comments below. That is going to be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button, hit subscribe if you have not already, and click the notification bell so you'll be notified every single time that I upload. I upload every single week. And if you want to find me anywhere else for any more bookish content like this, you can find me on Instagram, GoodReads, Pinterest, and in between the pages of a book, or in maybe a fairy realm. And as always, remember to be the Captain Jack Sparrow of your story, and may your compass lead you to amazing things. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. Happy reading.